Okay, so today I'm just going to be running through a quick guide of how to set up Adept for the upcoming Fall/Winter 19 season. This is mainly intended for newcomers to Adept, but obviously anyone's welcome to use it if they need a refresher. I'll go profiles through settings, then finish off with tasks. It's the more involved of the tabs, and maybe the part where you have more questions on. So I'll cover that sort of more expansively. So starting off with profiles, pretty self-explanatory stuff, but profile name, your name, email, phone number, and so on. Just to quickly go through the elements of this: full name. I've never had any trouble with running the same name on multiple profiles. That's never caused cancels for me, and unless Supreme changed something, which we will tell you about in the Discord, that'll continue to be fine running multiple profiles with the same name. Obviously, email has to be different. Order confirmations and so on and so forth. You will need separate emails. Phone number, same as name. This can be the same. Perhaps the most important part is the address in relation to whether you're running multiple profiles that have different cards linked to the same address. Now, a question that's always asked is, will I get cancels if I run this? The answer is yes, but all you have to do to counter that is jig your address. So it's not registered by Supreme as the same address, but it will still ship to the same place. So, for example, on one profile I might have 69 Maple Street, and an example of jigging that address is just changing street to look like that, or like that, or at a full stop. You know, there are a variety of different ways you can jig your address, which will just help you get around the fact that Supreme will cancel multiple orders on different cards to the exact same address. That's all you have to do. Another way to do that, if you're in the UK, zip code 3 digits space 3 digits. You can just remove the space or keep the space. Just a lot of ways to jig your address. Card, it's simple stuff. Make sure with the year you enter all 4 digits. On quite a few bots it's just the last 2, but with Adept, make sure you're entering all 4. If you want to change any elements within your address or your card number, you just load up the profile that you want to change, click load, and then you can edit and click save. These buttons are pretty obvious what they do. Delete the profile. If you've got a profile open and you want to create a new one, just make sure you've clicked save and then clear, and then you can create a new one. Importing, export, and exporting all. This is for situations such as if you're wanting to install Adept on your server, but you don't want to write out all your addresses again. Then you just need to export all. That'll export your addresses, your profiles to a JSON file, and you just need to import that file into your Adept that you're then running on the server, or whatever situation it might be. Okay, so that's profiles. Proxies, there are 2 formats that Adept accepts. The first one's IP port user pass. The second one is user pass. And all you have to do is paste them in here, test them to check they're working, and then click save. See clear failed if any of them are failing, and then clear if you just want to get rid of them all. Now, something to bear in mind at the moment is that if you test proxies within this proxy tester in Adept, they will all come back as a result of bad status code, and that's nothing to do with the proxies themselves. That's just that the endpoint that Adept uses to test the proxies, to ping the proxies to, because the web shop is closed as of now, it won't work, and it will give that result for every proxy you can try. So until the web shop opens back up, which will be 11 AM BST on Monday morning, use a different proxy tester. So Fog London, I know the NSB tester is working, or you can just put the proxies in your browser. So use a Chrome extension like Falcon Proxy or Proxy Switchy Omega, and then you can test them that way. That's proxies. Now into settings. You have your Google login. So obviously this is necessary for solving captures. All you need to do, click the plus sign, and then you can log into your Google accounts. Wait for everything to load up before you click the X. You'll sign into your email, and then it will take a moment to go to your inbox. And after that point, you can press X. That might be why it's not appearing if you're having trouble with that. Then your Google accounts will appear in the proxy tester. So obviously for me, not logged in at the moment because I don't have any Gmails in the bot at the moment, but they'll all be there if you sign in. Now enter a proxy. This is just running your emails on proxies. So for example, if you're using a one-click generator such as AYCD, and you've been running each Gmail on a different proxy, then you're not going to want to suddenly change the location that you're requesting the captures from. So you'll enter the same proxy that you've been running in the proxy service, and then click save. Test as well, just to check that the proxy is working. There have been some reports of issues with using proxies on Gmail accounts and getting captures from Supreme, but at least for the first drop, I'll be using the proxies I've been using in AYCD and seeing how that works. That's really a matter of testing and whether it works for you. So we'll see after the first drop what's really going on with that. And back to settings. So you have your custom webhook. This is covered in a channel in the Discord with a guide of how to set this up. But essentially what it is, you create your private server in Discord, add a webhook, paste it in here, and then any success from Adept will be sent into that channel with what you copped and so on. So it's just a good way to keep track of what you've bought and have that in one place. So default retry delay, all this is telling the task how long to wait before it reruns. Now the value that you put in here will be automatically applied to every task. However, I'll just jump into task quickly. It is also in each specific task, so you can override the value that you've put in settings by changing it in here if you want sort of some tasks to rerun at different speeds compared to other tasks. Then restock interval, this is for restocks, of course. You can have this really as low as you want. I've run 0 seconds interval for a couple of days and not had any issues with bans in the previous season. So pretty much you can run this at 0, but the default's 0.1. Like that. Okay, so capture services. Obviously for Japan users only. Simple to set up. Just go to the respective websites to capture image type as anti-capture. Set up an account, add funds to your wallet, and then copy and paste the API key from each respective service in here. And what this is used for is for pre-harvesting captures. Now this only works for Japan users because it seems that Supreme checks timestamps on captured tokens for the US and the EU, but not particularly for Japan. So that's why pre-harvesting works. And what this enables you to do for Japan only is to pre-harvest a great number of tokens, which means in turn that you can run a huge number of tasks and know that you will have capture tokens ready for you when your task is at checkout and Supreme's requiring a capture. Obviously, just a note that it's Japan users only. Do not use these services if you're not running Supreme Japan. Now threads, max tokens to request, these numbers are all default and they're fine. They'll be fine for all your tasks. Okay, so now into tasks. This is the important bit, of course. So we'll start off over here. The profile, obviously, at the moment, Adept doesn't support multiple profile selection to create tasks, but just select the profile that you want, and and then start setting up your task. So the 3 buttons over here, these are quite important. Capture bypass, only for the US, not for Japan nor EU. Obviously, click it green, it's functioning. Off when it's red, it's not. And an important thing about capture bypass for US users, only use them each week for a small number of tasks. You want the majority of your tasks every week to be without capture bypass, because some weeks it works, some weeks it doesn't, and you just want to make sure that you're covered every week in case the capture bypass is working. And in that case, you'll have some tasks that are running and they'll be able to check out super quick. Restock, this is only for when you're setting up tasks after the initial drops happened. The restock tasks and the non-restock tasks, so initial drop tasks, function in a different way. So you need to make sure that if you're setting up tasks to run for restocks, then you select restock, otherwise the task won't function properly. Proxy, obviously self-explanatory. If you want your task to pull a proxy from your proxies list, then you just make it green. Okay, so bot mode, there are 3 different modes. Generally speaking, request will be the one that you use throughout the whole of last season, and particularly the second half. Request is the #1 mode to use. So you most of the time you won't find yourself using these 2 modes, so don't need to worry about those at the moment. Now onto categories. I'll just talk about the EU briefly, because this is only really an issue for them. So for the category, obviously we know that the EU drop is the first out of all the drops, and sometimes we're not sure which category an item is going to drop in. Now that happens pretty rarely, but for example, let's say we're not sure if it's going to drop in t-shirts or tops and sweaters, then we'll click new just to cover our bases. Custom, because although by and large keywords are sort of confirmed by sources like Supreme Community, we still use custom just in case. And then we add the keywords. Now the way the keywords work, let's just choose go simple, go box logo. They work like this. So we want capitals at the start of every word, a space in between each keyword. For positive keywords, you don't need pluses in between the words, but for negatives you do. So for example, let's say we're running box logo on new, although if we're running for a hooded sweatshirt, we obviously know that they're going to drop in sweatshirts. Let's just say we're running new, and we don't want the bot to pick up beanies that happen to be dropping in the same week. So we'll write box logo, remember the space, and then minus sign beanie. That'll just make sure that the bot does not pick up beanie, and you're covered. You'll only pick up the hooded sweatshirts. Right, so onto color and size. Pretty simple setup for this. It's just how it works: red, white, and so on. Again, capitals at the start of every word. If you want to go for random color or random size, then just leave the boxes blank. Don't write random in them, just leave them blank. Now size, same sort of thing with color, medium, large, so on. For extra large, we write it like this, X large. Now on to retry delay, checkout delay in seconds. Obviously talked briefly about retry delay, that's also contained within settings. Now this is just to override that if you want to change that. And generally, again, week in, week out, you will have the same sort of advice regarding retry delay. Example, EU, if you look at the setup channel for the most recent drop, EU 1.3 to 2.5 delays, USA 1 to 2, and Japan 0.6 to 1.2. And really, again, unless Supreme change things drastically, which they may well do, that won't change. So that's all good. Now, just save that task. So let's just run quickly a setup for a box logo hooded sweatshirt. We want to go, well, whatever profile you want. Bot mode, request, category, new, custom. Let's just go box logo. Remember the negatives, although we would of course really be running this within sweatshirts because we know, just for the sake of argument. Color we'll leave empty and size empty because we want to go for random. Now choose values within the range. So for retry delay, checkout delay, and checkout delay increment, choose the values that are between the given ones in the setup guide. So if we're going off the last drop of spring summer, then we go for something like 1.4, 1.5. I mean, it's just up to personal preference. Just make sure you consult the setup guide before putting in the delays for the week. And then you just click on the plus sign and your task will be here. Remember that in the top right, if you're wanting to set up multiple tasks at the same time, you just add subtract and you can mass create tasks. Up here, clear all tasks, change all to restock, cancel all restocks. Now, once the initial drop has happened and all the items you're running for on your tasks have sold out, your task will automatically change to restock. So this button isn't so necessary, but in case they don't change the restock, you can use that, but they will. And finally, setting timer. So this is used if you're say away from your computer, and to be honest, even if you're at your computer, it's recommended because it's just easier rather than having to worry about starting all tasks yourself. For this first drop, it's going to be Monday, but for US and EU users, Thursday. 10. Set it for 30 seconds before the drop, or I like to do 15 seconds. It's sort of personal preference, but within that window, that'll be fine. Obviously, you have your start all button and your stop all button. Those are pretty self-explanatory. Now the YouTube, this will clicking on this will open up the corresponding number of tabs for the Gmail accounts you've entered in settings, and you'll want to watch YouTube say 40 minutes before drop, and then stop watching around 5 minutes before the drop. This just sort of generates activity on your Gmails prior to drop, so you're hopefully going to get those one clicks that you need to check out. Now, don't run the YouTube through the drop, just because it's going to be more stress on your computer that's unnecessary, and by that point, if you haven't got one clicks, running YouTube through the drop isn't going to help you get them anyway, so don't worry about that. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, obviously just ask the staff in the Discord, and let's cook.